Welcome to the It's Been Said podcast. I'm your host, SAI Executive Director Lisa Ramey. Today's episode is a special edition of the It's Been Said podcast. Dave Daughton, Government Relations Director, will discuss his perspective on current legislative topics relevant to district and school administrators. He'll offer his insights on this subject matter periodically over the coming months. Let's hear from Dave.
Hi, everyone. This is Dave Daughton with School Administrators of Iowa giving you your legislative update for the week of April 27th. And onward we go through the legislative session. The legislative session continued this week with some significant action on bills. As of the publishing of this report, they will still be meeting on Friday and into next week, taking the session into May. The good news is we know that it won't be too much longer. This week's legislation that moved, where several bills were sent to the governor's office. House File 2676, which we've talked about a number of times, is the MAHA bill, and I've had a lot of questions on the PE portion of this. So here's what that final legislation means to you regarding physical education. Grades K through 4 are to have 40 minutes per day of physical activity. That's up from 30 minutes. That includes PE and recess. So hypothetically, you would need to add 5 minutes to one recess, 5 minutes to another, and you could make that requirement. Fifth grade students are required to have 30 minutes of physical activity per day. And this is an important word, the activity. It's not physical education, it's physical activity, both for your fifth graders and for your younger students. So fifth graders, 30 minutes of physical activity per day. That includes PE and recess. Grades 6 through 12 are to have 120 minutes per week of physical activity. With exceptions allowed as before, there's really no change there. The physical fitness test is required as well, the presidential physical fitness test. The extracurricular activity requirement that was in the original bill was removed. House File 2724 has to do with endorsements for shortage areas. It requires the BOEE to create pathways for fine arts, science, math, and Strat 2 teachers. House File 2754 is the charter school bill. It requires that charter schools receive TSS funds from the resident district. It requires the resident district to provide opportunities for students, including allowing participation in activities. It establishes a second ESA date for second semester enrollment, and it changes things for homeschool parents. There are significant changes here, allowing for no maximum number of students that can meet together, allowing for diplomas that must be accepted by the regents, allowing them to charge tuition, etc. So there's some significant changes there with homeschool families, but also for the charter schools, and we'll see how those all work out. Senate File 2428 is the student behavior bill, which we've talked about quite a little bit in the past. I will have a full summary of this bill at the end of the session, but the main points of contention were, number one, the Oversight Committee, and this bill, as passed, establishes the committee is having say over policy and practice for a student's return to the classroom once removed. It also requires teachers to read the accommodations page of an IEP and read any changes made to an IEP as opposed to being required to read the entire document. Senate File 472 has to do with certification elections for your association or union. This makes some changes to the process for certification elections. It's not going to be significant for most districts, at least in my opinion. Senate File 2218 is the E-Verify bill. This requires school districts to use the E-Verify system to verify all of their new hires. Look for more on this later as well. House File 2230 is the Department of Ed teacher prep bill. It increases practicum experiences, especially in special education and ESL instruction in teacher prep programs, and creates an end of program assessment for those teacher programs. It does not require teacher candidates to pass the test. They're going to use that data hypothetically to improve the teacher prep programs. A couple of other bills that made its way through during the week. House File 2783 and Senate File 2482 are the education appropriation bills. Those bills were debated and approved this week. House File 2759 and House Study Bill 781, both are corrective bills that currently impact one district each. The legislation corrects mistakes that were made by outside entities that had a funding impact on those two districts. Both of those bills were sent to the Senate. As far as the property tax bills, we're still waiting. We know they've been discussing potential compromises privately, but really have not heard anything publicly yet. Again, they could announce an agreement and a compromise bill at any time, or they could delay the end of the session until they have an agreement, or they could just punt and start over next year on property taxes. Time will tell. Hopefully next week will be the final weekly report for the session. Take care and have a good week.